the new thing. I don't know. All right, we're back. We are COMP1006. That's Intro to Web Programming in the winter 2017 semester. And at Georgian, we're week 11, part 1 of our broadcast. We're talking about assignment 2 details, just like I said in the title, right? And let's talk about that really briefly, and we'll stop the video and we'll talk about something else, right? Just to make it nice and clean and smooth and beautiful. All right, Intro to Web Programming, assignment 2. We're making a simple CMS, right? Now, stop me if you don't understand what I'm asking for, please, because this is going to be your assignment details. Notice I pushed back the due dates, the damage. I was going to say the damage. I pushed back the details until next week and the week after. So week 12 and week 13. You're looking at the first part of this is your site security and your GitHub setup. All right, so it's very specific. Site file and folder structure setup. You can do that. Create a static landing page. Please make it so that it's some kind of business-related page. Maybe it has some kind of jumbotron or big banner image that says, "Hi, welcome to my beautiful page." You know, something, right? Kind of like to-do list, but not really. And my primary navigation function should be functional with using partial files. So this is required. So the use of partial files for navigation now, because we never had navigation in our first assignment, now we do, right? You need to use partial files for this. Functional site security. What this means is log in, log out, registration. Those pages should be intact. Do I have to make it so that it's, you know, it's a hash password? Yes, we'll get there. We'll want to talk about how to hash your password today. There's actually a very simple way of doing that, right? With PHP 5, right? We'll talk about how to do that. It's very simple. And then GitHub repo setup. You guys should all know how to do GitHub repo nowadays, hopefully. Anyone not know how to do GitHub? Right? It's okay to put your hand up. If you don't know, then we'll spend time in B230. I'll show you how to do it, right? This site has to be live, right? One thing it doesn't say here is you should put it up live for next week, right? So one thing I missed is GitHub setup and then, host live somewhere. Live on a cloud service. Come on, Tom. Cloud service. I'm getting tired at the end of the day. Or other hosts, because there's other hosts that have access to PHP, right? So cloud service could be the ones we normally use that I've mentioned so far: Azure and Heroku. Heroku might be the easier option. Azure, if you haven't signed up yet, it takes a couple days to get responses. It takes a bit of issues. Sometimes you have to contact them, get support. Go to E5 on the hub. Remember that whole process? I'm gonna recant that process for you guys to know that. So here under my if I go to Georgian and if I go to E5 on the hub, Microsoft DreamSpark, this is the link I've shown you before. And if you go to Microsoft Azure for Students, right, and you sign up properly, you can add to cart and you can get access to Azure. All right, so please, if you're going to do Azure for your assignment, make sure you sign up early. Don't wait, okay? Because if you do this the last day, it takes a couple of days for this to work. And you're going to use this for the summertime anyway. If you're taking comp, anything in the summer, comp 2007 or something like that, if you're one of these students that needs to use C# or any kind of SQL, then you do that. If you're not, hold off, because not this summer, but maybe next summer, right? You might have a chance to do comp 2007 enterprise computing, and then you'll need to use Azure anyway, okay? So that's one thing. Heroku, though, I recommend is far easier, right? Heroku.com. You get to use Heroku itself, plus it has services. Now, you may need to put in a credit card. I've never been charged for free services. I'm just telling you. For MongoLab or MLab and for even ClearDB, you do not need to use, you're not going to get charged. You just need a credit card so they can verify who you are, because you're tapping into other services. So they don't want just some random person doing that. That's all it is, right? But it's secure, it's safe, and it's become kind of a very popular service that a lot of people are using, so they're not going to screw you. And if anything happens, you can always call them, right, or send them an email, and they'll refund you if there's a problem. Okay, as long as you didn't actively choose some kind of crazy level of database. If you choose a crazy level of database that doesn't say free, well then it's up to you, right? But if it says free, it's free. Okay, like ClearDB there's free levels. All right, so those are the two that I recommend, and there's others. There's DreamHost. You can certainly use them. You can also make your own VM if you're interested. You could do all kinds of stuff with DigitalOcean is a nice one. DigitalOcean actually exists in Toronto, right? And for $5 a month, you can set up your own VM, right? Where you can make whatever you want in there, PHP, or if you want to do your node server or whatever you want. DigitalOcean is a great alternative for $5 a month if you want to pay. And then it's your own host. You can do whatever you want. It's your own server, and you can put in there. You can configure it the way you want. You can make sure you can use PHPMyAdmin. The whole thing is available for you online, but the configuration is a bit of a headache, which I'm not going to go over because that's kind of out of scope. But if you want to explore, if you're a developer who wants to learn, DigitalOcean, cheapest service out there, and it's in Toronto. So you're supporting a Canadian somewhere, which is a good thing. No Trump. All right. I had to bring him in there somehow. Okay, so we've got these are the options for this one, okay? So this is for part one. Part one is basically setup. Right now, if you look at the breakout of how this works, if you actually look at the details for how this is, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that what I'm looking for from the static landing page. Create a simple landing page that welcomes the user to the site. Include a Jumbotron or banner image that is business appropriate. Very straightforward. 4 marks. All right, that's this next week, right? Static contact page you also need to create, which is a simple contact page that allows the user to send a message to the site administrator. The page will include full PHP scripted email capabilities. Well, this part of the contact page right here, you don't have to make right now because I haven't talked about it, right? But the other part, making the default contact page with a contact, do it. You should know how to do that stuff. Get it done, as soon as possible, right? Nothing wrong with doing it. Main navigation we've talked about last time, and I'll go over it like you're suggesting. I'll look at that model view controller, the way we've separated everything. I'll look at the code base that I'm giving you. I'm telling you, use my code base, right? Modify it. It's easier to destroy than to build, like I keep on saying. I've been saying that for the last 2 weeks now, right? Use my code base and modify it and make it your own, right? Now, I can't tell you everything on how to do stuff. You got to do some of it yourself. I can't give you all the code, then there's no assignment, really, right? So, you got to make some of this on your own. Again, the main nav, right, is a partial file that can be included on any other PHP template page. The main nav will have links to the static pages of the site, home and contact, only show the login and logout links depending on the user login status, and have the capability to display dynamic links. This is the new thing. Dynamic links up to 5 as an admin user creates them in the dashboard. Oof, that's the hard part. So do I need you to do all of this part? This part? No, because we haven't talked about it. Right, that would be the second part for part 2. Right? Part 1, just set up a nav bar. Right, that works normally. Part 2, do this part. Right? Now I'm recording this so you can watch it. You don't have to ask me questions. Yeah.
Is this still set as groups? You said originally that we're allowed groups. I'm not.
Okay, a group of 2. Right? I think it's fair. Right? And then I will accept groups of 2. I don't mind. It's good learning anyway. Pair programming is a good way to learn. So I'm okay with groups, two people at a time. And you're like, no, why? You don't want groups? You're okay with groups? There's not enough work for 3. There really is.
I don't think we need groups.
I don't think so either. But if you really want groups and you're struggling, do groups. I'm okay. At the end of the day, as long as you know how to do something, you figure it out. On the exam is where it's really going to screw you, right? Because if you don't know how to do it on your own, and you depend on somebody else who knows what they're doing, and on the exam I ask you something like this, you're done, right? It's gonna spark out, right? Oh, don't hope for the best, buddy. Right? The exam is you're gonna get whatever I'm giving you now. It's gonna be just another exam question. You'll have access to everything, but you still have to assimilate it. You still have to look at it and go, oh, okay, so this is what Tom's giving me, but he's giving me A, but he wants B. It's kind of similar to A, but different. How do I do it, right? So you need to kind of understand. That's why I don't recommend it, but if you want to do groups, a group of 2 is okay. Site security. Create login and register pages that include any other PHP pages required to ensure that admin users can log in, log out, and register. So site security will prevent any user from accessing secure areas of the site. You can do this next week, no problem. You know how to do this. Do you know how to securely hash your password? No. We'll talk about this today, right? CMS dashboard. Now this part can be left for not this iteration, but part 2. Okay, some of this you know how to do. You can probably figure this out if you really think hard, right? How to do this. but we need to talk about this a little bit more today. So that's what part of my lecture today is going to be about. Okay. Site structure, you know how to do. This is just basically MVC. You know, the whole MVC structure, I'm telling you what to do here for views and controllers. The only thing I didn't include here is the requirement for a model. I don't need a model. If you want to include one, you can, right? But I'm not going to require you to use a model here, right? If you just do views and controllers for now, I'm perfectly happy, right? Because we're really using the model for anything right now. And it tells you how to split up your folders, files and folders nicely, right? Okay, so that's the whole piece. And again, I've only specified the stuff that you need for next week here in part 1, okay? Part 2. This is due not next week, but the week after, April 11th on the Tuesday. That's the day before class, please, people, right? Create a static contact page with working email. Now, you already have a contact page that you could have created in part 1. Now your email has to be working for you to get full credit, right? The secure dashboard with admin users that allow to create dynamic pages, right? That's part 2. A page template that will be used for dynamic pages, that's part 2. Site routing that will allow the user to navigate to the dynamic pages using the page ID, that's part 2. And ensure that the main navigation includes up to 5 dynamic pages as top level links. Yes?
The email should be just sent to our email or provided by you?
We're going to talk about some options. One of the options is something called SendGrid. If you use, there's a service. Here's the problem. If I use scripting, PHP scripting to send email with any cloud service today, it's going to bounce because it's insecure, right? That means I can come from anywhere. If I imagine I can make my own email server, woohoo, I can spam the world, right? We don't want, or by accident. And by the way, Rogers will prevent you, or so will Bell, if you set up your own IP address and you set up your own little server at home and bounce your email through their email service, they'll totally stop you from doing that now. They used to allow it with your own custom IP address. You could use SMTP routing to route. They'll stop you right now. So what to do? You can't do just PHP scripting alone. You need to use a service to route your email through, which is SendGrid. That's the easiest one. There's other ones as well, other services out there. But the one that I want you to investigate and how to do it, which we'll talk about, is SendGrid. Okay? SendGrid is a free service that you can tap into, right? You can set it up for free, for sure, right? And what it allows you to do is send emails with Azure as well as Heroku without being blocked, right? Now, the transaction levels we're talking about are like, I don't know, 10,000 emails a month or something crazy, like something crazy for free, right? Like you don't need, you might have 3 for me, you know, 5 maybe if you get your friends to look at it, right? I'm talking about like really small. So it's totally overkill for what you need, but it'll not be blocking. And that's the whole idea. So you have a non-blocking email service that allows you to route your email through and able to send it to different people. So it's great for things like email verification, right? If I want to verify your registration through email, like, kind of verify, or through things like sending you an email. If I send you kind of a message through the contact page, you receive the message. Like it'd be nice to have that happen. And there's a whole setup. If I was to just to type SendGrid email PHP, right? And as an example, right? You can see that there is a whole setup and it gives you the little code here to make it happen. Okay, this isn't like rocket science. The average person can figure this out, and so can you, right? And we're going to do it today. But in order for you to do that, you need an API key, which means you have to sign up for SendGrid. I can't record this part. By the way, by the by, right? I'm gonna put it out there too, right? SendGrid is fantastic, but if you use a non-secure GitHub repo and you put up your API key, they will find out immediately because they scour the web for that, especially on GitHub, right? And they'll shut you down. So please make your GitHub link private, okay? If you don't make your GitHub link private, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna be able to put up your GitHub repository. You won't be able to share with me because once you share with me, and if it's not private, if it's public, they'll shut you down. You won't have your email won't work, all right? So please, please, please use a private repo when you set up SendGrid. But notice what it is. You set up this SendGrid option, right? And what you're requiring is this idea of autoload.php, which is something that you're copying and making this work, right? And the same thing goes here. Here's the PHP with curl, right? Here's an example of other parameters that you can use for your to name, your from name, and so on, right? We're not going to use this piece because this is using curl, right? And SMTP API header, where you can do this one. They give you lots of examples about how to set up a email address here. Now, I can't do it with you online. I can't record it because if I record it, they'll shut me down. And they've done that before, right? Just letting you know. So we have limitations on this, but I will talk about it. Okay. So there's some really cool code examples here on SendGrid on how to do that. But we're talking about assignment 2, right? So that's what this assignment's all about. This assignment is making a little CMS. And by the way, last week, if you guys didn't watch the video, we created a little WordPress installation, right? For those people who didn't watch the video, take a chance to watch that last video from last week, right? It's about 2 hours long. Sorry, I didn't add in the naming convention, right? But I actually recorded an extra hour for you guys last week, and some people were here with me when we did that, and I went through the details of installing a small WordPress site, right? It's amazing what you can get out of it with WordPress. WordPress is powerful. It uses PHP and MySQL on the back end, and you can create your own install. And I'll show you it afterwards. I'm not going to reinstall WordPress because this course is not a WordPress course. I think there is a WordPress course that you can take at the college, but I installed WordPress because I wanted to show you the functionality. So it's very like that. A CMS is a content management system. So imagine what we're building here is, kind of a website where I can, kind of add dynamic links to my website or dynamic pages. I only want you to add 5, right? Up to 5. So what do I mean by that? So imagine if I have my main page, my landing page, and my contact page. Those are the only 2 static pages, really, with my login page and my my registration page too. Those are all the static pages on my site. But the rest of the pages on my site are all dynamic, right? So they don't actually physically exist. I only have a template, and on my database, I store all the page information on my database. That's what I mean by I talk about dynamic pages. That means I have another database table that we call something like the pages table. Seriously. And inside the pages table, a page has an ID. Here's the page ID. And in the page ID, I have the title, which you can customize. You can send the title is just a field, title. And you might have some kind of main content. You might have the footer, the header, a bunch of stuff inside the page. And then you have a template, and you take the information from the database and you inject it into the page. That's what we're talking about when we say dynamic page. One template that you inject data from the database. Okay? So there really isn't a page physically more than the template, but you're injecting data from the database to make it look like you have an unlimited amount of pages if you really want to. I'm only asking for 5. Why I'm asking for 5? Because I want you to put those 5 pages on your nav bar. Oh man, how do I do that? Well, nav bar, and I'm going to kind of discuss how to do this. If you think about what nav bar is, it's a series of links. A links inside of an unordered list, right? So with PHP, what I want you to do is I want you to add additional links to the unordered list based on what the user adds in. So it's going to read the pages table from the database, and depending if the pages table has 1 or more items in there, right, then it'll display that link on the page, right? And we can talk about optimization, like where you want to put the link and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, there could be a section of your nav bar that has the ability for us to add links on the fly, right? So as we add a new page in the database, bam, we slap it into the nav bar through a for loop. Okay, so that's really what I'm asking for here. Some of it you know, some of it you don't. And that's why I've spaced out the assignment details for this next week coming up and the week after. So you have enough time to ask your questions, try it out on your own, come to me, talk about it in class, and then I'll give you the details that you need to finish off your assignment. I can't tell you everything exactly, but I can be very close, right? And remember, anything that we talk about in this assignment and the last assignment is fair game for your exam, final exam, okay? So that's why I recommend you do it on your own. However, if you want a pair program, makes it easier, especially for the workload perspective, go ahead. I understand. Okay, any questions around the assignment number 2? Internal documentation is as normal, like last time. There's nothing in here that's different. I want you to put your author's name. If there's 2 people, both names, student numbers, and so on, the site name, file description, and so on. That's all got to be in there. Any JavaScript or PHP or CSS or HTML should have comments throughout, right? A link to your GitHub repo, as well as a link to your live site on some kind of cloud host or other kind of host would be required. And then I kind of mentioned how you submit your work. Together, both of this assignment part 1 and part 2 are worth 25% of your final grade. 10% for the first part next week, and 15% of this for the second part the week after, right? To give you kind of a good spacing, right? Okay, so I'm confident you guys have all the details, the data, you know how to do everything. Even now, if you really want to figure it out, if you busted a little bit on the internet, I'm sure you can figure it all out even now, right? But I want to talk about everything and talk about the concepts on how to do stuff so that you're not confused. Okay, I'm going to stop this video now because we're done talking about assignment 2 unless you have other questions. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer back to assignment 2 with some of the details, the technology we're going to be talking about here today. And I'm also going to look at last week. I'm going to look at the structure for last week because I want to talk about the folder structure because we've kind of moved into more of an abstracted, object-oriented structure that uses model views and controllers, right? Same thing we did last week and the week before. Okay, so let's stop this one and we'll start another one.